We want clicks. We want tons of fucking clicks.
Trump, do you think he's a racist? One. Two, if you do think he's a racist, or you don't think he's a well, I was about to say rapist. Race. If you.
Oh, we gonna ask that too.
Okay,
No,
sorry.
I don't think he's a racist or a racist.
No,
I
sorry.
don't think he's either. I think he has the same concern about black people as black people, or he also found a niche. So I mean, but beyond all of that, I don't think he's a racist. I think he is an American and he sees green. And no matter what, I mean, if that was the case, he wouldn't have bankrupted went bankrupt and screwed all of these, white people over. He screwed over more white people than he did black people in his whole lifetime. Like, he's an opportunistic, vulture. And he's a good one. And I think he'd be fucking awesome to hang out with. I think he's a cool dude. I think that's why he got voted in office, because everybody could kind of see him. Not really, I don't think they really thought he was a businessman, but like, he just seemed like a cool, honest guy, dude, to be honest. I mean, it's like a car salesman. Like, if Joe Biden was a car salesman and Trump were, you'd be like, God, both of these guys look sleazy, but listen, at least this guy over here is funny. You know what I mean?
Like, damn it, I guess I'm going to buy this Honda Civic from this guy.
And is he ignorant about the lingo and how things are supposed to go? Yes, and that's why he comes across racist. His lingo, the day and age he grew up, how he grew up, all of those things affect your outlook on life. Like, black people see some black people as threats. Some black people see white people as threats. And it goes all the way around. Just how you were raised, where you were raised, culture. I just think he's ignorant on some things that he says, or he's not. Which, if that's the case, he's a genius by riling up his supporters in that way. But I don't think he's a racist. I just think he's ignorant in the way he thinks and says stuff.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring up this question is there's an interesting article from Essence Magazine titled "Is Moving to Another Country the Answer?" And it's by Kristen West Savali. I think it's Kristen West Savali. I'll put it in the description because I cannot pronounce names to save my life. Anyways, her basic premise is she thinks that Trump's, quote unquote, racism is hurting black Americans in this country, and she thinks they should leave this country and go to another country. And as a black man, I'll state that again for the audience. As a black man, do you think this is the answer? Do you think people should just be up and leaving the country just because they think there's this perceived racism from the president?
No, that doesn't make any sense. Out of any time in America, this would be the worst time to do it. You don't run away from Trump. That's the weakest. I think that would be the weakest way to do things. Like, oh no, Trump's in office, we gotta leave. No, what you gotta do is get off your ass and vote. And encourage other people to vote, and at the base level, and understand a little bit more about how things work, and or be more proactive in your government or politics. Yeah, and that's it. We've tried to do it before, and where are we going to go? Like, what, we're going to go to Mexico, where people are getting burned alive with diesel fluid? Venezuela, South America, where there's civil unrest? Canada, where there's ridiculous amounts of taxes. Europe, taxes. Africa. I mean, there are awesome, beautiful places in Africa, but South Africa, let's just say, is apartheid. The racism in South Africa is worse than, America. And Russia, well, let's just leave it at that, Russia. I mean, and Asian countries, like, where are you going to go to fit in more? This is our home. Whether or not we wanted to come here, it's our home now. And we've built this place along the sides of every other color, and we fought for our rights and our freedom, just like, along the sides of white people. I wouldn't say just like white people, because or any other, race, but we were there, we fought for this, and we're right at the finish line. And why the hell would you want to fucking? You got a quarter mile to go. Why are you gonna quit now? We are so fucking close. We have the best country in the world.
Yeah, just to add on to what you said, I agree with most of what you said. I don't think, you know, leaving the country just because you don't like who the president is because of, quote unquote, racism that I don't really see from this president. I don't think that's the smartest answer. Like, there's no slavery in this country. I mean, the unemployment rate for Black Americans, Latino Americans, even has been the historic low. The unemployment rate is historic low right now. Well, was before that.
Yeah, COVID-19.
Yeah, before the COVID-19 epidemic, where it just fucked everybody. Let's take the numbers from before then. It was, America was doing well for, minorities, Black Americans, Latino Americans. Why would you like? Why would you want to leave?
I would go with maybe her aspect is. I mean, there's a couple things I could see where there'd be where we need to work on some shit.
All right, well,
yeah, we need to work on it, not leave.
Yeah, I'm all for always improving what exists, but just to say give up and quit and leave, I don't agree with that. Why would you want to do that?
That's not the American way, dude. We'd rather die than quit. You know what I mean? We are workers, dude. We are fighters. We are, prohibitionists. We are fucking, we are everything, dude. We're wrapped up in one, and that's what America is. And just to say, you had to build a house, build a house. Yeah, the foundation was a little fucked, but guess what? We dug it out, fucking fixed it, and then we built it up again. We get to the 60s. Oh, we got some rights. Oh, shit, that's the second level. We got all of this shit. Okay, and then the roof fucking, there's a hole in the roof. They're like, okay, let's move. And like, no, dude, there's a hole in the roof. Patch that shit.
So also in this Essence article, she mentions that she believes the Constitution is fundamentally racist. I don't see that, but would you like to put your opinion on that?
Wait, what was fundamentally racist?
The Constitution, the U.S. Constitution. It was written.
Oh yeah, 100%. The Constitution was put in there fundamentally racist. I do agree on that. Yeah, I mean, but was it considered racism back? No, it was the way they were brought up. It's like, let's just say eating meat 100 years from now is considered, brutal. Right now, it seems like eating a hamburger ain't no problem. I mean, I do think that the Constitution is fundamentally racist in the ways that they weren't thinking about black people, because black people weren't considered people at the time. They were considered 3/4 of a human being. And yeah, that's it. George Washington, all of most of those people that created it had slaves, and at the time they weren't even thinking that slaves would have the right. And that's my opinion, because they were brought up in a culture of when they were babies, they were surrounded by slaves, and they had food brought to them. They were taken care of, all of that, and that's the way it was. And is it racist? Actually, I don't know. It was just their culture. But as far as the Constitution, it was not meant for black people, poor white people, because poor white people were basically slaves too because of sharecropping and indentured servitude. But obviously they didn't have to deal with the violence of... I mean, they might have had to deal with the violence, but not in the, the realm of, African Americans at that time.
See, I disagree to an extent. I kind of agree with what you're saying. Yeah, they probably weren't thinking, a couple hundred years in the future, this slavery thing is not going to be a thing anymore. But I would like to think that just based on the language, and then nowhere in the original Constitution does it state anything, I feel, pro-slavery. There's the obvious one, all men are created equal. And also we have some of the framers of the Constitution, like Thomas Jefferson, who, wrote articles, against slavery. Yes, some of them still practice it, but I would like to think that when they were writing this, they're like, hey, this can't happen in our time right now, but let's write something that in the future is going to encourage people against this, because just the idea of stating that all men are created equal, states that you can't own men as property. That's just my thoughts on it. Like, I don't think that they were going like, oh, this Constitution is pro-slavery. That's my point. I don't think it was written to be pro-slavery. It may have
I
not
don't
been.
think.
It may have been written in a way where they weren't thinking too far ahead in the future. But I don't think it was written to say yes, let's keep slavery. Just because there's nothing in there that states just from the word, just from the context of just reading it, stating
They
slavery is a
even.
good thing. It may have
I
not
don't
been.
think.
It may have been written in a way where they weren't thinking too far ahead in the future. But I don't think it was written to say yes, let's keep slavery. Just because there's nothing in there that states just from the word, just from the context of just reading it, stating
They
slavery is a
even.
good thing.
But yeah, I mean, at the time, all men weren't created equal. It was a good thought, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't think of their culture at the time was even a notion of a black person being free. You know what I mean? They thought, we were less than human. They literally thought we were less than human, and they appointed us as three-quarters human, and that was it. And I don't think the Constitution was racist because you have to have some forethought. I don't think there was any forethought because it was a way of life. And Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, all of our founding fathers, say all of them, but Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, for freaking sure, were slave owners. And did they have any forethought? No, they probably inherited. They probably inherited from their freaking parents. And they probably loved, some of. I know Thomas Jefferson loved quite a few of his slaves because he had children with them. And, are these guys bad people? No. Did they have malice of forethought when they had slaves or they had the slave auction buying slaves? I don't think so. I think it was just a way of life that they didn't give two thoughts to. And did they treat their slaves good? Probably. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, yeah, I would say they probably did. But I don't know. And at the same time, that's how I feel about it. Was it bad? No, it was what happened.
Yeah, I want to clarify.
It was a way of life. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I want to clarify something. You said in the beginning that you thought the Constitution was written and that it was racist, and then you just said a few seconds ago that it wasn't racist. So I want you to clarify your premise right now.
And today's views, it was just. I mean, it's a tricky one. Is it racist? So I'm going to say you have to have malice aforethought. I think yes, it was racist. They thought that black people weren't able to think, on their own. We were three-quarters. There was a lot of all types of theories at the time about what makes us less than human. So, and it's just a way of life back. I'm thinking that's why it was confusing. So it was here, past, and now. Now it would be looked up as racist, but in my eyes, I'm gonna say no. It was just a way of life. So no, the Constitution wasn't racist.
Okay.
So that's what I think. It was just hard for me to explain it because even now, I would think that was their way of life. I don't think they had any idea of anything other than what they grew up with. So I don't think that's racist. I think racism is just I think racism is just ignorance. I've met people that are cool as fuck and they say some pretty, awful shit about stuff. And I honestly think everything's up for grabs. If it's funny, if it's hilarious, go with it. Even if it's not hilarious, well, that's fine. You're not funny. But
that goes more in the realm of free speech, though, which is something we could talk about in a later date. What people, because there's this thing called hate speech, and I disagree with it. But we can talk about that in another video.
Yeah, hate speech is speech.
Yes. We'll talk about it later video. So we just want to ask you guys down in the comments, what do you think? Do you think the Constitution was racist? Do you think it was written in a racist way? We want to know what you think about the Constitution, because I think that's important to talk about,
Yeah, definitely.